All righty. Looks like we're live. So, to everybody out there, welcome to another episode of Motivation and Mindset. I am James Morris, President and CEO of TMC Solutions, and I'm here with my brother, Jermaine Morris.
Hi, I'm Jermaine Morris. I'm a coach and consultant based out of Sacramento with a practice based around the DISC assessment, which is basically a test that kind of shows how we are, how we interact, how we are with communication and behaviors. I like to focus on self awareness without judgment and help people professionally or personally kind of get to where they want to get to and make the changes they feel like they want to make.
Yeah. Hey, Jermaine, good. Hey, appreciate you joining, man. This is long overdue.
Happy
We
New
take
Year.
Happy New Year. Yeah, we took a little bit of a hiatus. End of year came, and being business owners, I know you completely understand. The travel starts to pull us in different directions, and customer demands, and then you got some family demands, and as you know, your nephew's active, so he was pulling me around the country while they were in the football playoffs.
Nice.
And so lots of travel, but man, excited, been wanting to get back together. And so it's great for us to be, just back getting the show up and running. I've been getting a lot of phone calls and texts saying, hey, man, when you guys coming back on? And I like what you guys were doing. So excited to be back at it. Hey, before we get started, the one thing I'm going to throw out there is, to the people listening in, hey, we're just two brothers talking about how do we get better. Again, motivation and mindset. We're not doctors. We're not lawyers. We're not prescribing anything. We're not telling anybody to do anything. We're basically offering perspective. I'm a business guy. I've spent the last 30 years in corporate America. So I usually take the approach of what are we doing in business? What are some of the tools and techniques that I've used to help me out? And I'll let Jermaine talk about his approach himself. He can articulate it better than I can.
Yeah, I take more of the people side. And so I've always been just personally, I've always focused more on people as opposed to things. And so focusing more on interpersonal relationships and how we deal with other people and more specifically how we deal with ourselves.
So great. So today, just jumping right in it. And it's funny because this topic is probably about 3 weeks overdue. You can tell it's a new year. The most obvious signs for me was I walked into LA Fitness last week on a Monday, and I couldn't get a bench because everybody had made their New Year's resolutions. It was hard to find a parking space.
Yeah.
The gym is actually jam packed, and it brings up, why, what's changed, right? Why do we always wait till January? Hey, we're going to start the new year off, and I'm going to have my beach body ready, by June. And, I'm going to drink less, and I'm going to be a better husband, and I'm going to, be a better wife or a better friend, or, a lot of the things that I've been going through is, how can we create a better TMC?
Okay.
Right. One of the things, and I can remember years ago talking to one of my bosses, right, a guy named John Berner, and he'd just come on, and he'd been promoted. So he was a peer of mine that got promoted.
Okay.
And he's a super smart guy, one of the best bosses I ever had. And I can remember back in 2001, him basically saying, all right, I want to sit down. Let me see your list of goals. I was like, oh, you want me to go create a list of goals? And he was like, no, I want to see your current list of goals. I said, well, I don't currently have a list, but I can go create one. And he said, I bet I can guess within a couple $1,000 how much money you have in your savings account. That was odd. And he threw out a number, and I don't know how he knew, but surprisingly he was correct. And he was like, you got to get some goals, right? You got to get some goals. And once we set some goals, then I'll help you put together some plans on how to achieve them. So, I've always taken that with me, right? And my whole leadership team, they have a goal sheet. There's a book by Jim Rohn called Goal Setting, and he has a workbook inside. And I actually send that out to my entire leadership team. And I was like, hey, this isn't mandatory, but I strongly encourage it. I want everybody to fill out this exercise sheet. And it may be something that we can attach and share with everybody out there. But from your perspective, right? We can talk about on the business side budgeting. How do we establish our budget for 2024 and what is it based on, and what are some of the benefits of hitting our goals, and what are some of the detriments? We just had a conversation about us missing plan and people not getting some bonuses, right? But from a personal side, and we'll rewind the clock 19 days. It's December 31st, and everybody's thinking about what they're going to start doing tomorrow. What's that mindset around the New Year's resolution and, how we're going to be so different?
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, the calendar day, new year, new me, all that type of conversation. Fresh start. It's the new year. I'm gonna start new practices. And I'm personally not a New Year's resolution guy, but I do understand where it comes from. I get, okay, we passed the holidays. Now I'm gonna be a better husband. I'm gonna be a better father. I'm gonna save money. I'm gonna get in shape. I'm gonna start calling my mama more. All those things that we say. But if that's what it takes to start, if the calendar day is what would get you there, more power to you.
Yeah.
But I think when we go into the new year personally, I think what motivates people, what gets them going, is just a need for change. A need for change, because B, I'm a firm believer that most New Year's resolutions are directly tied to a lack of boundaries in the fourth quarter of the previous year.
Wow. And you think it's isolated to the fourth quarter?
Well, because what happens is it's that hop, skip, and a jump from the Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's.
Okay.
So we spend a lot of money from October to January 1st. We're pulled in a lot of different directions. Got to go see grandma for this. Got to visit the in-laws. Got to be here. Thanksgiving dinner. Relatives are coming to visit. People are doing. We pulled in Christmas gifts. Got to do this. Like, we get pulled in a lot of different directions. We overextend ourselves. Our emotional and mental bandwidth just gets maxed out. Financially, we overextend ourselves. Our people battery, like like how much we can deal with people, usually gets tested to the limits, and then usually so does our waistline, because we're eating candy in October. It's Thanksgiving dinner, it's Christmas dinners, it's multiples, it's tamales, depending upon, it's all this stuff. And so January 1st is like, okay, we didn't cleared out all that stuff. I wasn't disciplined the last 3 months straight. I need to lock in January 1st.
Yeah.
So what lack of boundaries in the fourth quarter is usually what leads to New Year's resolutions in the first.
Yeah. So what I think I'm hearing from you, and I appreciate where you're coming from, is the resolution. And this is, I'm just, talking in a generality, but at the point that we make a resolution, does it also represent that we've identified something within ourselves that we don't like, right? Hey, I want to lose 40 pounds in the new year. Well, I've identified that I don't like being overweight. I've identified, my goal, my resolution is I'm going to save more money. Well, I've identified that I'm overspending. My resolution is to drink less. Well, I've identified that I'm drinking too much.
Yes.
Right. So when I think about resolutions, I'm thinking about, I need to resolve some of the things that I'm doing that at the very least, either I've identified about myself or somebody else has told me. Right. And I guess the only criticism I have is I think about, as a parent, right? I've got, my group, and you start to think about things like, hey, I'm going to be a better dad in the new year.
Yeah.
And there's a logical side of me like, man, you need to be a better dad now, right? I need to be a better dad now. Hey, I'm going to drink less in the new year. Hey, I probably need to start drinking a little bit less now, right? I bet you if there was a chart out there, and I'm sure there is, of when people get the most DWIs and things like that, I bet you Q4 as you kind of hit on, I bet you it's higher, right?
Yeah.
So I almost want to separate. We probably could have did a show on goals and a show on resolutions, right?
Yeah.
But let's keep talking about resolutions.
Okay.
So I've made a New Year's resolution, right? Going back to some of the personal things that you hit on, and those out there that's listening have probably figured out that not only do I love doing this show, but it's an opportunity for me to get free therapy. So I try to take full advantage of it during our shows. So I've made a resolution to work out, right? Trim the waistline down, and or to drink less, or to be a better partner, or be a better parent. I've made that resolution. If I were to come to you as a counselor who I greatly respect, and I mean that in all sincerity, how do you make sure that I don't do what 90% of the people at LA Fitness are going to do? I start off hot in January.
Yeah.
And then by March, I can park up front, right? Because everybody's burned out. So why don't you walk me through your opinion on, I've made a resolution. How do I how do I get 12 months out of it, right? How do I get there?
So it kind of goes to what you were saying with the person you worked with before about what's your plan. So if you don't have a plan for whatever this resolution is, I can pretty much guarantee when you're going to stop going to the gym,
Right.
how long you're going to stop eating right, when you're going to start drinking again. You know what I mean? Like it's the same thing. You're just like, it sounds good. I mean it when I say it, but I haven't put any real plan together. There's no checks and balances. There's no short-term goals.
Yeah.
So things like I'm going to lose 30 pounds this year.
Right.
Means I have 12 months. Like I think it's a leap year this year. I got 366 days to
get right.
Up. So if I backslide by January 15th, I've still got 11 and a half months to make this 30 pounds, as opposed to I'm going to lose 10 pounds in January. I'm going to lose, which means I need to have 5 down by the 15th, which means roughly 2.5 pounds a week, whatever, which means I need to break it down into smaller portions. So here's my weekly goal.
Right.
I don't have 366 days to lose 30 pounds. Yeah. I have 7 days to lose 2.5.
Right. I love where you're going with that. So I'm going to expand on it. Right. So as you know, I've recently been on this weight challenge. Right. And I've set some goals for what I have to do in order to get to a certain number.
Yeah.
And so I initially said, hey, just like you said, I'm going to lose 30 pounds. All right. How am I going to lose 30 pounds?
Yeah.
When am I going to lose 30 pounds? So what I had to do was think about, why am I 30 pounds overweight or 30 pounds away from where I want to be? So now I have to start to think about that. But what I actually did, which has worked for me, is says, okay, it's got to be more than just I'm going to lose 30 pounds, right? And we could do this when it comes to parenting, relationships, business, whatever. So the plan, and I get a lot of criticism about my plans. It's not that I don't have them. I don't always do a great job of communicating them, but that's another discussion for another time. But so in my plan was, okay, I'm going to modify my diet.
Okay.
So what does that mean? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I started actually September 1st. Okay. So the first thing I said was, I'm not going to go through any drive-through windows. If I have to order it from a talking box or a Jack or a Clown, I'm not going to do it. Okay. So I'm not going to go through any drive-through windows. So if I eliminate that, okay, that's that. I'm going to do 30 minutes of cardio 5 days a week, 150 minutes a week. Okay, those are 2 things I'm going to do. Okay. Well, I'm no longer thinking about the 30 pounds. Now I'm thinking about 30 minutes, 5 days a week. Now I'm thinking about, I'm not going to go through any drive-through windows. Then I said, I'm not going to eat any bread or potatoes or dessert, right? But it comes down to, if we put together a plan, and I like how you put it in bite-sized pieces, right? No pun intended. But if we put it into bite-sized pieces, then it starts to become a little bit more obtainable. Because I think when you start thinking, I'm going to drink less, That's so broad and so general, and I think that's why people fall. I'm gonna go to the gym and do what?
Pull in the parking lot, be there for 5 minutes, and leave. You technically went to the gym.
I went to the gym, so that's pretty good. So you feel like if we break it into bite-sized pieces, that's probably one of the keys of being successful.
Yeah. So depending upon your mindset and depending upon your motivation, like
Right.
for the reason why. So some people get told, okay, look, you've got this health concern. You need to lose 30 pounds now if
Yeah.
you want to be here for next New Year's.
Right.
Okay, that's my motivation. So I may not need to break this into bite-sized pieces because I got a really big, clear understanding of this has to come off.
Right.
Like this is not a debatable conversation anymore.
Right.
If
But
it's
you
something
still have
that's
to have a plan around that, though. Behind
yes, but you may not have to break it down so into small increments.
Right.
Because you're like, no, like I've got a very clear, distinct finish line of what needs to happen. Like
Yes.
these health things they have to change.
Yes.
And so for some people, they don't need bite size. But
Yeah.
I think if you know yourself well enough, which I'm about the self-awareness part, and
Right.
it's important without judgment. So it's like, okay, I'm somebody who needs things in bite-sized pieces. There's no judgment attached to that.
Yeah.
It's not you should or shouldn't, or it's right or wrong if you do or don't. It just is. Okay, I'm somebody who needs to break this down. Okay, so now let me start putting these things in, like exactly you said. Okay, I'm not focused on losing 30 pounds. I'm focused on no drive-throughs, no, no bread. Okay, if I just do that and do my cardio, I will lose 30 pounds.
Right.
So if I get disciplined on the steps, I will reach the end result.
Right.
Some people can be finish line orientated. Some people can be, my goal is to save $10,000. That's their inline goal. Somebody's like, well, if I just cut off, if I don't stay out of the drive-through, stay out of the $7 coffees, no, pack my own lunch and do all that this year, I'll hit my mark eventually.
Yeah.
So it's just figuring out which one we are for which and whatever one we are, it's fine. Just knowing which one we are, so we can better attack it and stick to it.
Yeah, I get that. Kind of again, I'm listening to you, and I'm trying to, I'm a simple-minded guy, so I'm trying to figure out how do I, make it make sense. And one of the things that kind of popped into my head is, you think about that goal or that resolution that it's like if you walked up to a beautiful home, and you're standing out on the sidewalk and you're looking at this beautiful home. That's the goal. That's the resolution. But what you really have to start to now think about is, if you look at when you drive through a brand new subdivision, when you first drive through, there's a foundation. Right? And you don't see that when you see the finished product. You're just looking at this big old beautiful home that you want to buy. But there has to be a foundation that's built. And then you drive through the neighborhood. You know how we do because we're waiting on our house to be built. The next thing you do is you start seeing 2x4s, right? And they start to create a framework, right? And pipes sticking out the foundation because we got to have water and electricity and things like that. And then before you know it, they're building walls inside and, paint. I think that the one thing I would encourage people to do is, all the things you just said, right? You look at the weight loss. I currently weigh whatever, right? This is just an example, 250 pounds, and I need to be 220 pounds. Okay. Well, 220, I'm looking at that house, that finished house. Okay, what's the framework? What's the foundation? Yeah. So that's the diet. That's the cardio. That's the vitamins. That's the not drinking cold beers and, warm cocktails. And, those are the things that we have to think about is what's going to go into it. And then those are the things that we use to create a plan, right? Because if we don't create a plan, I remember, I think it was Emmitt Smith. I heard him talking about if you don't write it down, it's just a dream, but once you write those goals down, and that's the sheet that, again, anybody that chimes in today and requested, I've got a sheet for creating goals, right? And this thing is really cool because it gets to the point where we ask people, give me 5 things that you've accomplished that you feel proud of. And everybody can give you that 5. I graduated from high school. I bought a car. I saved up 100,000. Whatever it is, give me those 5 things. Well, the whole purpose of that is, okay, you've already shown that you can achieve a goal. You proved it just with these 5 examples. So now what I want you to do is give me 50 more things that you want to accomplish. I don't care what they are. I want to go to Rome. I want to be able to afford a maid. I want a new car. I want to save. I want to get an education. I want whatever it is. Then I'm saying, how long is it going to take for that to happen? 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. And then we prioritize it. Okay, now we got the 1 year goals. Let's focus on those 5 or 10 or whatever they are. And then when you finish it, highlight it. Don't scratch it off because we want to be able to reminisce. But let's highlight it and add another one to the bottom. So I think it comes down to the framework. So now let's shift gears.
Okay.
Right. Let's talk about goals, right? More specific goals. And I'm going to talk about it from a business perspective. And, we had some conversation off camera before this meeting. We had a situation where one of our typically top performing departments didn't make their 2023 budget number. Yeah. But I'm of the opinion that there's probably opportunity out there for them to hit the number, be it we had capacity to do more work. There were orders that we possibly could have completed, or there were costs that we could have taken out. But if you combine all these things together, we missed our goal by some number. Yeah. And there's repercussions for not doing that. And it's been a big debate because if you don't hit your number, you don't get a bonus. And so I've got a business unit leader that's been debating with me and trying to get me to where we were 95% there. So can we get 95% of our budget bonus? And I'm like, no. But let's put together a plan to make sure that you don't miss it by just this 5%. So we've been having that discussion. And what I've decided that for the business unit leaders, we've created the framework and the foundation, so I'm not babysitting. So I've actually created 52 report cards for the year. So we're going to track it weekly because I'm going to make sure we don't lose track and we get to the end of the year and we're at 95% of plan or 96.7% of plan, right? It's been bloody. But what I've actually done, and you kind of hit on it with the weight loss, right? 2 pounds a week. So here's your annual goal. This is how much you need to hit to make your goal for the year. But we're not just going to leave that to where we're in December, we're trying to say, what's the goal? What's the goal? We're almost there. Yeah. So then I have a column where I've created quarterly goals. Okay, January, February, March, Q1. This is where we need to be. 1/4 of the annual goal. Well, it's starting to become something that we've been able to cut that stake down a little bit. Well, now let's take that quarterly goal and create monthly goals. For January, this is where you need to be. So we have a review here in about an hour and a half, and we're going to review week 1 and week 2. Okay. Well, you should have half of your January goal by now. If you don't, what are we doing to recover? Well, then in the next column, we've got weekly goals, but and maybe I was being a little facetious. There's 2,080 hours in our normal work year. Okay. 40 hours a week. You're working 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, 40 hours, 52 weeks a year. The average employee works about 2,080 hours. Okay. Let's take your goal and divide it by 2,080. This is how much you need to be doing every hour. Okay. Why do I do that? Well, I'm not a smoker, and I hope I don't offend any of the smokers out there that are listening in, but I noticed that my smokers probably get double the breaks of everyone else. Okay. Not saying that they're not terribly efficient when they are at their best, but I come in the building, they're outside smoking. Nasty habit. I hate it. Cigarette butts in my parking lot drives me nuts. But anyway, I'm thinking if you spend 10 minutes 4 hours a day, that's 40 minutes a day. If you do that 5 days a week, that's 200 minutes a week.
Yeah.
Do that 4 weeks a year, 200 minutes times four, that's 800 minutes a month. Keep doing the math. And then we attach how much capacity did we lose because you're out there smoking? I guarantee you that if we could reduce that, and then you think about they missed their goal by 4.3%, we
There it
probably
is.
could have clawed it back.
Yeah.
Or that extra employee that you chose not to give an opportunity to go someplace else and be successful, we carried extra labor, right? And so I've gone beyond my finance group. We put together a budget. We know what we need to do. We know what our expenses are. We know what our overhead is. But I created a tool to where every week I'm going to follow up. I'm going to coach. I'm going to counsel. I'm going to encourage.
Okay.
Hey, this is how we got to get there. I'm not here to beat them up. I don't want them to fail. If they fail, I fail.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, I own the whole number.
Yeah.
So some of the things that we're doing from a goal perspective is we're taking our budget, then we take our budget to another level of this is what we got to do today. And some days we're up, some days we're down, but we need to average it out by the end of the week. We need to make sure we're there for the month. We can't afford to lose. But let's just win the day.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm at on it. I don't want to get too stuck there, but I guess when it comes to setting goals, kind of my point is let's make sure that for every goal, we put together some framework behind it of how we're going to get there. It's not enough just to say, my goal is to become a proficient bass player. Well, my goal is maybe my goal should be to practice my bass 30 minutes a day.
Putting it into tangible benchmark. So I think the difference between, say, if you're doing it relationally versus professionally is that for sometimes if you want to make changes, there's not necessarily there's not those benchmarks. Mm-hmm. So say if okay, I want to be a more effective communicator in my personal life. There's not a quantifiable number to look at to see if that's happening. Okay. So if you're saying I want to be a more effective communicator, I want to be a more active listener, I want to try to be more understanding, I want to be more empathetic when I'm dealing with people. Like if there's no way to say, okay, I am 5% more empathetic now than I was last year. So I think sometimes when we look at things personally, if we're trying to make some changes, that won't always be something that can show up that way.
So what is the proof? What is how do you, if my goal is to, because that's an area where I get criticized, and I think, being a recovering workaholic, okay, I've so often approached my personal life very similar to how I approach my professional life.
Okay.
And what I have to do is, I need to be able to adjust that approach, right? And so my question is, how do I know when I'm being successful?
So several, but one method is, number one, is feedback. So if I'm having a conversation, let me qualify if I heard what was being said, and let me qualify if what I said was being heard. So instead of saying, yeah, we talked about it for 30 minutes, and then thinking because I walked away with whatever understanding I had, that meant that it was mutually exchanged, does not mean it's the case. Like you could say whatever you want to say for 60 minutes, and that person tunes you out after 15. Or you had 60 minutes worth of things to say and didn't hear anything that they said for 60 minutes. Mm-hmm. So to say, okay, I want to be a more active listener, I want to be more understanding, I want to be stressed to be more understood. Okay, after we've talked for a little bit, don't go 60 minutes, don't wait till minute 59 of a 60-minute conversation, but check in to see, okay, let me make sure, that I'm being heard,
mm-hmm,
and then let me qualify if what I heard is what you meant.
Wow.
Because a lot of times we'll phrase things a particular way that sounds right in our head, but that's not necessarily what came out our mouth. And so then when somebody gives it back to us, oh no, that's actually not what I meant. What I meant was A, B, and C.
Right.
Well, you said D, E, and F. I know I said D, E, but thank you for qualify.
Mm-hmm.
Let's qualify that and make sure. Okay, no, what I actually meant was A, B, and C. I know the words that came out of my mouth was D, E, F, but what I actually meant was A, B, and C.
Gotcha.
And that way, we qualified that there's an understanding that's what's happened.
Okay. Okay.
So if you're asking what is a gauge, what is a way to test that? When you do that, how often is it accurate? So if in January you're realizing that, oh no, we're kind of missing the mark. Like we're talking at each other.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're waiting for our chance to respond, but we're not actually speaking to one another.
Right.
And then as time goes by, the more we qualify and check back in, we're actually getting more on the same page. We're hearing each other better. Okay, that's a real world tangible gauge of, okay, there is some progress happening in this area.
Okay. So I like that. I think that's good stuff. So how important? So I'm gonna ask a question on the personal side, right?
Yeah.
Now, and what I'm talking about is communicating the plan, communicating the goal, communicating. In business, I'm telling you, we do our performance review process in January.
Yeah.
For the previous year. We start building our budget October.
Okay.
In my business, people have to know the plan.
Okay.
What's the plan for my group? Whether it's safety, we've gone, I don't want to ruin it, we've gone about 75,000 hours without a lost time accident in one of my facilities.
Nice.
But they're on certain milestones, they get safety awards. So pretty cool stuff. Get a jacket, get a cap, just our way of thanking them for being safe.
Yeah.
The budget. My Indiana facilities need to know what's our annual revenue target. What's our expense number? How much can I spend on entertainment, travel and entertainment? They need to know that.
Yeah.
But on a personal side, and I'll just, step on my own toes, a place where I struggle is I don't do a great job of communicating my goals, right? I can have a plan, right? Because I'm a planner and I'm marching to the plan, but I don't do a good job of communicating the plan. So how important is that on the personal side? I know it's critical in business.
Yeah.
But my significant other, one of my children, right? I'm going to be a better dad, or I'm going to be a better boyfriend, whatever it is. Should I have to communicate my plan, or can I just execute it?
So somebody commented, Mark
Davis. Hey, Mark.
Most of the best bosses, supervisors are those who listen to input after communicating theirs. Yes, that's true. And I would say that I would extend that to your question relationally. Is that do I need to communicate my plan if you want everyone on the same page?
And I can't just let them see the results?
No, because what happens is that the results are at the finish line. So take it in consideration if football analogy for follow sports, if the O-line doesn't know if this is a run or a pass, but the QB and the wide receivers and the running backs do, but no one tells the offensive line. So the way that they're about to set up their blocks either can accidentally be right, they're going into pass protection and you happen to be throwing the ball, or they're going into pass protection and nobody's making a hole for the running back. But your thing is that, well, I threw the ball over top. He caught it. We scored a touchdown. Yeah, but the entire play, we're all looking at each other like trying to figure out what we're doing, and we can be out of position. It works when it works, but it's blown coverage when it doesn't.
Well, that's a good opportunity for a legal man downfield.
So it's like we didn't know what we were doing. You told the wide receiver run straight out, and you're going to throw it over top. You two knew what was happening. But the other 9 of us were over here am I supposed to get the ball? Am I supposed to stay to block? Am I supposed to run short? Am I supposed to go deep? And so we can find ourselves disconnecting from the next play because we feel like we are left out of the loop of the last 3 previous ones. Oh, he's just going to do what he wanted to do anyway.
Right.
And if he's not communicating with me, but he's communicating with him, okay, they got something going on. That ain't got nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
So then you see those guys running half speed and disconnecting. And what that looks like personally is that if you're just going to do what you want to do, or I'm just supposed to ride with the result, if I'm not going to be affected by the consequences, then do what you want to do.
Yeah. Well, I think that I like what you're saying, and I put this comment back up from Mark, and man, great guy. I'm honored that he's listening in today. But if I take Mark's input and I replace bosses and supervisors with significant others,
yeah,
right? The best significant others are those who listen to input after communicating theirs. I think that's good. So I'm thinking about communicating the plan, right?
Yeah.
And that's an area where I've struggled because I've always been kind of one of them guys like, I'm taking care of my business, leave me alone and let me do it. You're going to see the result at the end of the game. Well, the problem is they may not even be there at the end of the game because they don't think I'm doing anything. So this is a good nugget, but maybe there's an opportunity.
There's two. I mean, to cut you off, but before you go, the 2 points about that is, number one is that there's the degree of arrogance that whatever plan I came up with on my own is better than any input you can give me. And the second, I don't have a feeling of gratitude and appreciation for your position or part in this that I feel the need to include you in what's happening.
Wow.
So
that's powerful.
There's a lack of gratitude and appreciation for whoever else is involved. And then there's a degree of arrogance in the sense of, I don't need your input because I know what's going to work. And you have nothing to offer that can be a more beneficial or an alternative way to do whatever it is I came up with.
Yeah. And again, I think that applies professionally and personally. Right. Yeah. So, as I like to take nuggets for myself, again, this is free therapy for me. One of the things I definitely, I'm glad we're talking about it, but I do a great job, in my opinion, of when I talk to my team, I'm always asking them, we call them comebackers.
Okay.
You got any comebackers? You got to come back with something. And they're pretty comfortable saying, I don't agree with that, or I don't know if I can make it. I think you're asking for too much, whatever. Maybe on the personal side, okay, here's what I think I'm going to do. Here's how long it's going to take. And here's the result that I hope to get. What do you think about that?
Yeah.
And you may end up saying, well, I think you may hear, well, that don't work for me.
Yeah.
That's a non-negotiable. That I don't think that's going to get us where we need, whatever it is, at least but I like the idea of the two-way conversation, right? And I think that's fuel.
Yeah.
Right? That's going to be fuel to kind of get us further down the path of achieving the goals. Because ultimately, like if we're putting together plans, I think the goals are that we get there.
Yeah.
We want to get there. And I think that we wouldn't even be putting together a plan if we wasn't trying to get there together. I'm talking about personally. I'm talking about professionally.
Yeah. If you look at, if you're saying we're just keeping in the confines of a domestic partnership, whatever that looks like for you, romantic relationship. Mm-hmm. And we're saying that, okay, these are the plans that we putting together. I can sit there and come up with a plan that's specific. I got this plan together to help us get this house. Like that's the goal. I want us to be able to buy this house together. So I put this plan together and I'm not including my mate in what I'm doing.
Right.
You'll be happy when we pull up in front of the house, you'll be good. If you separate it that way, you may be successful in reaching the financial deadline to get the house. But by the time you get the house, that lack of inclusion can be you move into that house by yourself.
Yeah.
So compartmentalizing things has its place, but understanding what's the big picture.
Yeah.
So the goal is moving into the big house together in this relationship with a degree of happiness and peace and communication. Okay, so it can't just be, it's like people pride themselves on being scoring champion, whereas the big guys, Westbrook or Oscar Robertson, they're about to triple double. So it's great that you scored 40. You dropped 40 last night. Yeah. However, you didn't play any defense. Your man got 50 on you. You got 0 assists, 0 rebounds. So you're phenomenal in this area. Yes, you were able to get the plan together to buy the house, but you dropped the ball on the connectivity on the actual relationship, on the empathy and support, on the transparency of what's happening. So yeah, you got the house, but you're gonna sell it in 6 months because you're there by yourself.
Yeah, it's funny. It took me a long time, and I agree with everything I'm hearing. It took me a long time to kind of get that, and I can kind of remember, story, and this was, about 20 years ago, almost exactly 20 years ago. Previous relationship, raising my kids and all, and I can remember, getting my first significant bonus. Right, I'm in corporate America. I'm just in my management role. Just bought the house, that I still live in today, and I got a little extra change, and so I'm gonna go out and buy my significant other a car. So I go to the car lot. I'm feeling like $1,000,000, chest stuck out, big old grin. I identify a vehicle that I really like, and I buy it. And they deliver it to the house. And I'm thinking, man, I'm going to be so loved. I'm just the greatest guy ever. And she looks at the car. I see the tears start to flow. I'm thinking tears of happiness. And she says, I hate that car. I would have never gotten that car for myself. I don't like the color. I don't like the style. I don't like, and, in my arrogance, and I was a little younger, the first thing I said is, you're so unappreciative. Yeah. As I now, again, the things that I did at 30, I don't do at 55, right? Yeah. Now I look back and just think, what if I had included her in the process? It wouldn't have cost me any more to say, hey, you want a blue one or a gray one? Yeah. You want a car or you want an SUV? I'm buying the. Then she could have enjoyed the process of, I get to go pick out a new car. Yeah. Wouldn't it cost me a penny more? Yeah. And so I guess I'm kind of amening your point of the value in communicating the plan. And again, I've been having this conversation in another context, but just us talking through it together, I'm kind of having an aha moment right now. Like the light bulb just went on, the Tweety birds have now dispersed, and I'm kind of like, maybe there is some value in communicating the plan. It doesn't devalue what I'm doing.
Not at all.
In fact, it may give us an opportunity to get to the finish line, together, if that's what we choose to do. Or to say, hey, the plan don't work for me, but hey, it's all good. Appreciate your honesty. And, if we see each other, we don't have to cross the street. Because I think it's all positive, right?
So the gratitude and appreciation part. So what we can easily look at through our eyes is, I'm buying you a car. That's me showing gratitude and appreciation. Mm-hmm. Whereas the other person will say, I don't feel appreciated because you didn't include me. Well, the other side was like, how can you not feel appreciated? I bought you a car. Yeah, but you didn't think enough of me to include me in the process and communicate to me what was happening.
Yeah. Well, what it starts to feel like is, well, you didn't really do it for me.
That's the thing.
You did it because it made you feel good. And I've been very guilty of that, right? When you grow up not having a lot, I'm a big believer in it. It's definitely more blessed to give than it is to receive. Yeah. I like to give because I think it's the beginning of the receiving process.
Yes.
If you don't give, you won't receive. I do believe that. Right. I try to keep, my money circulating, for lack of a better term. But so I tend to give, but I have to kind of make sure that I temper that, right? We make sure we put it in a context where it's not just all about, like, if I do something nice for somebody, I need to make sure that it's about them.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah, that's so when we look at these things, like when we're trying to put these goals together, when we're dealing with each other in whatever capacity, because it may not be a significant other, it may be our children.
Right.
We may decide that I'm going to be more intentional about spending quality time with the kids.
Right.
And I'm going to be an active listener in what I choose to do. Is that what they want to do? I'm going to make a conscious decision to be, okay, I'm going to be present for the things that I'm doing. It's like, oh man, come on by. We'll sit by. We'll watch the game together. But you spend half the game on the phone, the other half doing something else. It's like,
Right.
yeah, we were in the building together for 3 hours, but we talked
There's
for
no
like
real
15 minutes.
connection.
Yeah. We were just attendance. We were just both here. So when we start doing those things of like the communication part is big, the appreciation, like not just man, I should be appreciated for what I'm doing. And if I appreciate you and I'm expressing gratitude for you, is it in the way that you would like? And is it in a way that you're being received?
Right.
Like, what mean I don't appreciate I pay all the bills, I do A, B, and C, I took you here, I took you there. Yeah, but really all I needed was a good job. You did everything but the thing I needed to feel appreciated.
Right. Right.
You know, and that's those things that come up when we clearly communicate where we are, what we're trying to do. And if it includes another person, well, where are you trying to go? What are you trying to get to? What's your input? Like you may come up with a plan that may be less efficient than the one that I came up with, but creates more connectivity. So it may take us, you can die. We're going to lose 30 pounds together. My plan to lose 30 pounds will have us doing it in 45 days. Your plan to do it may take 2.5 months, may take 60 days, 70 days. However, when we both reach the goal, what we did my way, we step on a scale and hit the number, and we're probably not even really talking to each other. And there's a little resentment and probably some passive aggressiveness that comes with my drill sergeant ways on how to get there.
Right.
Their way, there may be a little passive aggressiveness on it's taking me longer than I want, but we bonded in walking together. We got to bond in meal prepping together. We got to bond. We went to the gym 4 days a week together. So part of it may be it took me longer than I wanted, but when we both get to the finish line, there can be more connectivity in the less efficient way. And ultimately, that may be the better way that we go about this.
Well, and then, you know, as we talk about list of goals, right?
Yeah.
So let's say this weight loss thing, right?
Yeah.
But as I think about, okay, that's one of my goals. I'm talking personally. There's also another goal, maybe 4 down, saying we're going to spend more quality time together. So guess what? While we started walking together on the weight loss side, but we're walking together and we're talking while we're walking. Yeah. So while one of us may have lost 30 pounds and the other one is, you know, having ice cream cone for dinner, we're actually getting extra 15 minutes a day, 20-minute walks in, and we're achieving another goal, right? We're reconnecting, we're connecting, so I get that. I get that. So, you know, I think that, man, we could probably keep talking about this for the next 2 hours. I kind of want to bring it full circle. You know, I'm gonna just tell you what I heard, and then I'm gonna kick it back over to you to kind of kick it out, right? So whether it's personally or professionally, you know, whether we're talking about goals or resolutions, you know, and that goes beyond New Year's. Once we identify what that thing is or that list of things, we have to have a plan to put behind it, right? We have to break it into manageable, achievable pieces. You know, we call it bite-sized pieces, right? Yeah, I want a T-bone, but I can't eat a T-bone in one bite, right? I got to cut that thing up, you know, and I want to enjoy eating it, you know, but I have to have a plan behind it, because if my resolution is to go to the gym, that's probably not going to get me where it need to be. And it's January 18th. And again, I had no problem finding a parking space already where I couldn't even get in on January 2nd. Yeah. Or when I had this meeting here in 43 minutes with my team to talk about how do we do last week. We're not getting on the phone every week talking about the annual goal. How'd you do last week? No. Okay, we fell short. Okay, let's talk about what we could have done different. Do we have too many people? All right, I'm going to help you put together a plan, right? Do we need to drop in industrial engineers so that we're doing 120 units an hour instead of 95 units an hour? Because that'll help us get more. So, we got to have a plan. It's not just the big pretty house, but it's the framework behind the pretty house, right? That's going to make sure when the wind blows, the house doesn't fall down, right? It's something built on a solid foundation, as the old folks would say in the church, where they say that tree that's planted by the water, got good roots in the ground. It won't be moved. So so when I'm taking from our discussion today is I definitely have goals. Professionally, and I've put together my budget and my forecast, and I've done, broken it down every piece, every way I can. Personally, I'm going to take from this that I'm going to do a better job of, putting some tangible, legitimate plans behind some of these goals and resolutions so that they're sustainable, so that they work. But I'm also going to communicate better to make sure that they work for everybody, so that everyone's on the same page. And if we're not, we can deal with it. And if we are, we move forward positively, but we have to communicate. So that's an area of improvement. But I'm going to kick it to you to close us out, man. I know you always got some powerful words for me. But how would you sum it up?
I would right there. I mean, if we're looking for these goals that we want to put into our lives, whether it be I'm going to be a better communicator, I want to implement boundaries, I want to exercise more gratitude and appreciation, I want to do these things that don't have a quantifiable number, about consistency, communication with whomever this involves, like I said, and not being afraid of feedback. And so if we're talking about connectivity with other human beings, hearing what they have to say about it is a part of the process. It's not just, I want you to fit into the box the way I want you to. It's, do you even want to be in this box? And how do you want to be in it?
Wow.
So I want to check you on the left side. You stay in the left corner. That's where I have you in my mind, how I have you in my life. But you be like, nah, I'm top right. Like, I don't even, you can keep most of that. That's not the way I want to be represented in this situation. Mm-hmm. And so watching those expectations that we place on other people without communicating them, and then looking at them sideways when they don't fall into this box that they don't even know exists.
Yeah.
So when we're dealing with other people, whether it be our romantic relationship, our relationship with our children, our professional dynamic, co-workers, subordinates, what have you, being open to the idea of I may not be perfect out the gate. This goal I put together, this plan I put together may have some room for improvement.
Yeah.
Or at least variation. And so being open to the idea of, just because I came up with this in my head, and just because I can end up with a house, or I can end up in the end zone, or I can end up at the finish line, doesn't mean that's the only way I could have gotten there. And if I practiced scorched earth to get to my goal, is that really what I wanted anyway?
Yeah.
So alienating everybody, not communicating, doing all those things just to get to a desire. Yeah, you lost 30 pounds, but you lost all your friends in your relationship in the process. Right. Like, just, communicating and understanding the goal is one thing. What's the big picture as well?
Right. I like that. One thing I'll end by saying is humans have the ability to do something that no other animal can do. I believe that if we look at our life and we see where we're headed 5 years down the road, and we may have started with one goal, right? I'm going to start my own business. I'm going to be an Olympic sprinter, whatever the goal is, right? I'm going to be a supermodel or an actor. If we take an honest look and we look 5 years down the road and we don't like where we're headed, we have the ability to change it. Dogs can't do that. Lions can't do it. humans are the only species that can take a 5-year look down the road, and if they don't like where they see things are going, we can start saying, if I keep drinking like this, I'm going to be dead in 5 years.
Yeah.
If I keep living fast and loose, I'm not going to have a relationship. Yeah. If I keep not hitting my budget, I'm going to go out of business. Yeah. So do I just continue? No. I'm going to now say, I'm going to reduce my expenses. Yeah. I'm going to increase my revenue. I'm going to fire an ops person and hire a salesperson. I'm going to change my trajectory.
Yeah.
Right. And if we make goals, you know, the goals that I had at 24, you know, I just hoped that I could spend the next 10 years in helmet and shoulder pads, and I would have been just fine with that, right? And make a lot of money, buy mama a house, and that was my goal. At 54, I want to be able to retire at 60. I want my kids to be healthy and happy. I want my kids to have a better relationship with me than I have with my dad. That's a goal. Okay, so if I see that we're heading down the same path, what can I do differently? Okay, I'm gonna text my kids every Monday.
Yeah.
I don't even want just call to say hello. Yeah. If y'all need, hit me. No, I ain't gonna say if you need me, call me, because they'll call me because they'll need something. But no, but just reaching out. So I just think it's important that if people are setting goals, and after you get into that goal, as you get into that plan, if it's not going in the direction that you wanted it to go, it's okay to pivot.
Yeah.
And change direction. So I just thought that was important. Hey man, how can people find you? Right, you got great content. Not only am I your big brother, but I'm a customer of you know, some of your disc assessments. All of the professional staff that come into TMC Solutions, they do a disc assessment. What we have found is our turnover has reduced dramatically. We make sure that the test has helped us to hire people that have better compatibility with the leadership team. So we got managers like, oh God, if I didn't know they were like that, I'd have never hired them. Well, we go through these assessments, and so they've been great. So tell us a little bit about that, and where people can find you if they wanted a DISC assessment. And it works personally and professionally, not just for business, but in relationships. And you know, you and Honey could do that assessment together and find out what you have in common and this and that. But if I keep talking, I'm gonna end up telling them all about it, so I'll stop.
Yeah, the DISC assessment, if you're unfamiliar, it's basically a test that shows how we interface with the world, how we are naturally, how we communicate, how we are problem solving, solution orientated, how we are when things are okay, and then how we are when things aren't as okay. To get more information on that or any of the programs I do, you can go to mykeystome.com. MyKeystome, mykeystome.com. And it'll show you all the information, get you set up with a consultation to really walk you through the process of the assessment and everything that I do. And then all social media platforms are all at J Morris CEO.
Yeah. Not to be confused with J Morris at TMC.com. So yeah, I encourage people to reach out. My keys to me, and you know, Jermaine is amazing at what he does. I couldn't be more proud of him, you know, as a big brother. Hey, I'm James Morris, President and CEO of TMC Workforce Solutions. We're a national staffing recruiting firm. We supply temp labor across the U.S. I am also the owner of TMC Supply Chain. We're the distribution fulfillment partner for the 2 largest shipping companies in the world. I won't say their name and give them free advertisement on this phone, but we do distribution fulfillment of all their operational print, North America, and you know, various places across the globe. So if you all are looking for a job, you can go to tmcworkforce.com. If you're a customer needing labor, you can go to www.tmcworkforce.com. Give us a call, reach out on this platform. We can supply you temps, and if you're a temp, we can find you a job. So that's what we do. If you're a customer looking for pick, pack, and ship, distribution fulfillment, we own facilities in Houston and in the Midwest. We can set up a pick, pack, and ship operation for you. and have it running. So couldn't pass up an opportunity to do a little bit of a commercial. Hey, we're going to be doing this thing weekly. I know next week I'll be in the Midwest, so we may have to play with the schedule a little bit. I'll be out in Chicagoland for 3 days of meetings, but glad to be back online. Glad to be putting this thing together. So our goal is to keep it going, and hoping to hear from folks. Feel free to give us feedback. If there's some things that you guys want to hear us talk about, again, we're just two brothers having conversation, but if there's anything that you guys want to talk about on the business side, personally, we'd love to just get on and have some discussions. Um, and depending on what it is, maybe we can bring some people on with us and you guys can join in the conversation. So, hey, thank you all for joining in to Motivation and Mindset. I'm James Morris with my brother, Jermaine Morris, and we'll see you next week.